concentrate on the Divine Master and pray for the well-being of the whole humanity. Shanti Shanti Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishna Yate Namah. Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us bow down to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme God Incarnate. Let us pray to Him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. In the last class, we were discussing about the spiritual path, how it is very important to get proper instructions from the Guru, and then carry on spiritual practices with great care and persistence. Our interest in spiritual life should be genuine. It should be deep. It should not be superficial or shallow. A superficial mind cannot consistently adhere to anything. You may have some little experience and then think, well, that's enough. But you are only fooling yourself. Your purpose cannot have depth and sincerity if attachment to sense pleasure exists. As long as the mind is dwelling on the pleasures, you will not be able to make any progress in the spiritual path. Because the mind will remain on the level of tamas and rajas, leading it restlessly outward. Even though you want to go in the spiritual path, the mind takes you in the opposite direction. So you have to establish yourself in a sattvic mode. That is, you must be extremely calm, with calmness of sattva, The wild horses of the senses can be tamed, they can be quietened by developing self-control. So lack of self-control is another pitfall, and we should make a regular practice of watchfulness over the senses. You have to take all these steps. Then only you'll be able to move along the spiritual path. Watchfulness can be achieved by stepping back from the senses. Try to separate yourself from them. That means don't just dance according to the tune of the senses. Observe and watch the senses reaching outward like tentacles existing in all directions, fastening themselves on this object or that, impelled by desire after desire, and returning to the depository of the mind. Through an awareness of the movements of the mind, you can filter out non-spiritual thoughts and ideas before they strike root and contaminate the mind. You can get out of undesirable predicament by observing what is approaching the door of the mind through the senses. There is another obstruction in the spiritual path which you must be aware of. It is vain argumentation, too much intellectualism. I don't mean you should not reason, but there's a way of reasoning and there's a way to put limits to the reasoning. Spiritual life is experience. It is not words or arguments. On academic level, it's a different issue, like taking a college course in religious philosophy. There we seek information and reason out ideas necessary for the writing of an article or writing a book in order to get PhD. But for our personal spiritual experience, we don't need very much information or too much argumentation. When these spiritual practices become fruitful parts of our lives, and when some real advancement becomes noticeable, there is another particular pitfall which you must notice and which must be avoided. That is, the reappearance of that villain, the vain ego. Without conquering ego, you can't get the final realization. The vain ego will enter, take the platform, demand an applause and claim, I am such a remarkable person. Everyone notices how special I am. So you are inflating your ego in the garb of spirituality. A really spiritual, advanced person definitely does not project his ego. We should be on the watch for a resurgence of this kind of egoism. These are some of the roadblocks that can be expected along the spiritual way. Let us be conscious that these pitfalls are there, but we need not be fearful. We have only to be cautious and prepared. If we have intense faith, if we are humble, if we are sincere, if we are patient, we need not be afraid of any pitfalls. Spiritual path is a sure path. It will lead us to our destination, namely God, even in this life. Now this concludes my topic which I started in my last class, the spiritual path. So, when you are going in the spiritual path, you must become aware of the pitfalls and you must be straightforward to understand things in a proper way. So, not understanding clearly the meaning of spiritual life is the first pitfall on the spiritual path. Secondly, lacking in faith. You must have tremendous faith in the words of Guru, in the instructions given by the Guru. If you lose faith, you are not on the spiritual path anymore. Thirdly, doubt. Unnecessarily, doubts interfere in your spiritual path. Fourthly, unripe ego seeking its expression. Ego showing up in different ways. In different ways. The moment you show up your ego, it only indicates you are not on the spiritual path. Whatever reason you may give, I am not talking about the reason. I am just pointing out the pitfalls. If you are on the spiritual path, you have to follow these paths, whoever it may be, irrespective of persons. These are the principles, these are the ways which we should follow in spiritual life. Another pitfall, non-attentiveness to a regular routine of spiritual practices. Non-attentiveness. How every word is important. It is very important when you come to spiritual path. Another pitfall, impatience. Impatience. The seventh one, lack of self-control. For anything and everything, you lose yourself totally. You just collapse. That means you have no grit, you have no strength. How can you walk? You must have strength in the limbs, to walk. Then vain argumentation. And lastly, the reappearance of the villain, vain ego. So these are the 9 important pitfalls on the spiritual path. If you are serious and sincere about your spiritual path, you must very definitely be aware of these pitfalls, and then you must move onward cautiously, watchfully. That is the conclusion of the topic, spiritual path. Then you can expect the result. Simply telling, I did not get any result, will not make easy for you to get the result. Result has to come when you fulfill all these things which I just told. Well, that's about the last topic. Today I am taking another important topic which is essential for us. That is, need to be proficient. Need to be proficient. There's a Sanskrit word for proficient, nipunata. Sri Ramakrishna has said in the Gospel, why should you be frightened? Hold fast to God. What if the world is like a forest of thorns? Put on shoes and walk on the thorns. Put on shoes and walk on the thorns. Whom should you fear? You won't have to play again the part of the thief in the game of hide and seek once you touch the granny. Then Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of King Janaka, who was a man of realization, a great, remarkably great king. He was Rajarshi. He used to fence with 2 swords, the one of knowledge and the other of action. Nothing can frighten an expert player. So, you need to become expert in spiritual life. Simply walking in a haphazard way or making a show of spiritual life is not spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna gives another example. How a person who has attained proficiency behaves. How does he behave? He takes the example of Hanuman, a great character in Srimad Ramayana. Hanuman, noted for his love and devotion and service to Rama. He was proficient. He had reached that level of proficiency in his love, in his devotion, and in his service to Rama. Because he had reached that state of proficiency, he realized the truth. Then Sri Ramakrishna said, Hanuman, who had reached that state of proficiency, said to Sri Ramachandra, his most dear master, he said, O Rama, sometimes I think that you are the whole and I am a part. And sometimes I think that you are the master and I am your servant. But when I have the knowledge of reality, I see that you are I and I am you. This is the realization Hanuman got on account of his proficiency. We have got three systems of philosophy in Hinduism. Advaita, Vishishtadvaita and Dvaita. All these three have been indicated here. You are I and I am you. Advaita. You are the whole, I am the part. Vishishtadvaita. You are my master, I am your servant. Dual. Dvaita. Dualism. So, what more is there for him to realize? So, if you are expecting some experience in your spiritual path, in your spiritual life, you must become proficient. Once, young yogin, who later became a great saint, Swami Yogananda, he went to a mall and purchased a frying pan for Sri Ramakrishna. The shopkeeper was a past master in his trade, and he knew how to talk and how to make people agree and how to push his things to people so that they can buy them. That was his trade. And generally, I don't know in America, in India I have seen, generally people in the malls, shops, they speak very softly, very politely. The reason they don't want to lose any customer. Once I had gone to a devotee's shop. He is a good devotee. It's a very small shop, very small. And I had gone there for some collection to the ashrama. He was helpful in taking me to some donors. So first I would go to his shop and he would make me sit there and he would offer coffee or a cool drink, whatever it is. So one day what happened was I was sitting there, about 3 or 4 people came to the shop for buying the things. He's a cloth merchant. How nicely he treated them. Whether they purchased the cloth or not, that's a different matter. The way he treated them, that amazed me. Very kindly, very affectionately. Not only that, he ordered for coffee, he gave them coffee, everything. And if they wanted to see a particular cloth, a particular color, he spread out 40 colors, 40 shades. Take this, take this, take this. And opening the rolls, the whole area was covered by all these cloths. And the persons who had come there to buy the things, they were stunned to see, because it was so fascinating. They wanted one particular color, and he showed many other colors. They were attracted by those colors. So initially they wanted to purchase a small measure of cloth, but they began to purchase a lot of clothes. I was just watching and thinking about myself. So, anyway, with respect to that devotee, I am telling he is a very good devotee. But here, when Yogin went to the mall, the shopkeeper talked with him politely and then pushed him a article which he wanted, and he brought it joyously and gave it to Sri Ramakrishna. But Sri Ramakrishna was very shrewd. His observant eyes detected a flaw in the pan. He showed Yogin the defect. See, what kind of article you have purchased? Probably you are fooled by him. Yogin realized his mistake in buying that defective pan. He submitted that the shopman appeared to be a very religious person, and he never thought he would cheat. Sri Ramakrishna pulled him up. My boy, all that glitters is not gold. You should not be led away by surface appearances. You must know that shopkeeper is not there to do charity and propagate spirituality. His aim is to reap a profit from every transaction by hook or by crook. That's the way. So you must be on your guard. You should not trust him blindly. Test thoroughly before accepting anything. He should have examined the pan carefully before paying for it. Then Sri Ramakrishna tells, religious aspiration should not make you gullible. The master was underscoring the need for a spiritual aspirant to be proficient in whatever he does. Earnestness in spiritual pursuit should not make us indolent and slipshod in secular matters. The bhakta should be daksha. Bhakta means devotee. Daksha means must be capable of doing. This is said by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita in the 12th chapter, when he is describing the characteristics of a devotee. Anapeksha shrutir daksha udasino gatavyatah sarvarambha prityagi yomat bhakta same priyaha. Daksha, that's the word I am concentrating upon. It means able, competent, skillful, careful, attentive and prompt. All these include daksha. Daksha means all this means. You must become daksha if you want to become a devotee. Then only you will be successful in spiritual path. Then only you will be successful in reaching the goal. whatever the aspirant does must be perfect oriented. He must not make a false division between the spiritual and the worldly. For a devotee, nothing is worldly, everything is spiritual. If he is careless in secular matters, the same carelessness will affect his spiritual disciplines also. It is not as if he can be competent spiritually and incompetent in worldly affairs. The reason is obvious. The devotee has surrendered himself to the Lord. He doesn't do anything for his own sake. He has no will of his own apart from the Lord's. Whatever he does is the Lord's work. So if you do the work with this concept, then it is accepted as an offering unto the Lord. If you are doing your actions with this attitude, every action of yours becomes an act of worship, becomes an act of offering. God accepts that. Naturally, such an offering cannot be made carelessly. If you are careless, even though you have done very well, it is not accepted by God. It must be done scrupulously. Every detail must be attended to with care and with great concern. What we do must please the Lord. For if He is pleased, the whole world is pleased. Tasmin stushte jagat tushtam prinate prinitam jagat. When the root of a tree is watered, all the branches and leaves get watered. When the Lord of the universe is propitiated, all the world rejoices. And for the Lord there is no division of spiritual versus secular. In the divine, only divinity abides. To the true devotee, likewise, everything in the world bears his touch. He must necessarily do all work as worship. He must be quite dexterous in whatever he does. He must be dexterous. Lord has given great importance to proficiency. Lord says in the Gita, Yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is skill in action. To be a yogi means the aspirant must be adept in everything he does. It is not enough if he gets immersed in samadhi. He wants the yogi to be intensely active with the condition that no bit of his activity is self-centered. All work should be God-centered. If your action is self-centered, even to the slightest extent, then he cannot become a devotee. Kayena manasa buddhya kevalayirindriyerepi yogina karma kurvanti sangam tyaktva atma shuddhaye. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, the yogi performs action only with body, mind, senses and intellect, forsaking attachment for the purification of the heart. He functions dedicating all work to God. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Yogaha karmasu kaushalam can also be translated as the secret of work is yoga. By yoga, the Lord implies Nishkama karma. It becomes yoga when it is selfless action. Karma binds us when it is performed with self-interest. When the karma is selfless, when it is dedicated to the Lord, it loses its binding power. Instead, it becomes an instrument of liberation. It is the motivation that counts. With what motive you are doing, that's important. When we do something with an axe of ours to grind, we get trapped in the coils of karma. But when work is done in Lord's name, and when work is done for Lord's sake, we share His freedom, we share His bliss. Nothing can affect us, even as a lotus leaf unstained by the ambient water. Padma patramivam bhasa. The sincere aspirant then must develop skill in action. You must study the life of Sri Ramakrishna. You find how he was very skillful, very thoughtful, unforgetting, devoted, totally selfless. The natural tendency of Sri Ramakrishna's mind was to soar into the transcendent realm beyond the reach of words. He would always go into ecstasy. But when he came down to the plane of empirical world, he was perfect in each little thing he did. Never did he leave behind, even by accident, a trifle like a napkin in the house he had visited. The Paramahamsa, man of highest illumination, who could give spiritual illumination by a touch, also taught the Holy Mother how to trim the wick of a lamp. He would bestow mukti, the supreme liberation, by a glance, could also send his audience into peals of laughter as he mimicked the gestures of the Kirtani, showing off the bangles on her arms. A perfect dancer never takes a false step, Sri Ramakrishna used to say. Dancing in the ineffable joy of the divine, the master never took a false step in matters spiritual or secular. His penchant for perfection made no distinction between the inner world and the outer. Anyway, today I have just started this topic. How it is very important for us, the spiritual aspirants, to be proficient. That means you must have the target. Don't get satisfied by doing tidbits and doing certain things and feeling I have done a lot of things. Never enter into that kind of attitude. Always you must point yourself towards proficiency. Towards proficiency. The whole being must be at the action. Whatever action you are doing, and that action must be totally selfless. Well, there are many points to think about, and you have to prepare yourself properly. You have to prepare yourself properly. Then only your spiritual life becomes possible. Page 613, 612. 613. Trailokya once remarked, "As I was born into the family, I have a share in the estate. God is your own mother. Is she a stepmother? Is it an artificial relationship? If you cannot force your demand on her, then on whom can you force it? Say to her, Mother, am I thine 8 months child? Am I thine 8 months child? Thy red eyes cannot frighten me. A deed of gift I hold in my heart, attested by thy husband Shiva. I shall sue thee if I must, and with a single point shall win. God is your own mother. Enforce your demand. If you are part of a thing, you feel its attraction. Because of the element of the Divine Mother in me, I feel attracted to her. A true Shaiva has some of the characteristics of Shiva. He has in him some of the elements of Shiva. He who is a true Vaishnava is endowed with some of the elements of Narayan. Nowadays, you don't have to attend to worldly duties. Spend a few days thinking of God. You have seen that there is nothing to the world. The Master sang, remember this, O mind, nobody is your own. Vain is your wandering in this world, trapped in the subtle snare of Maya as you are. Do not forget the Mother's name. Only a day or two men honor you on earth as Lord and Master. All too soon that form so honored now must needs be cast away. When death the Master seizes you, even your beloved wife, for whom while yet you live, you fret yourself almost to death, will not go with you then. She too will say farewell and shun your corpse as an evil thing. Continuing, the Master said, what are these things you busy yourself with, this arbitration and leadership? I hear that you settle people's quarrels and that they make you the arbiter. You have been doing this kind of work a long time. Let those who care for such things do them. Now devote your mind more and more to the lotus feet of God. The saying goes, Ravana died in Lanka and Behula wept bitterly for him. Ravana and Behula were two persons totally unrelated to each other, having lived far apart in time and place. Shambhu too said, I shall build hospitals and dispensaries. He was a devotee of God. So I said to him, will you ask God for hospitals and dispensaries when you see him? Keshab Sen asked me, why do I not see God? I said, you do not see God because you busy yourself with such things as name and fame and scholarship. The mother does not come to the child as long as it sucks its toy, a red toy. But when, after a few minutes, it throws the toy away and cries, then the mother takes down the rice pot from the hearth and comes running to the child. We shall stop here. Any questions? You are welcome to ask any question you want to ask. With regards to the satisfaction of the senses, there is nothing like satisfaction of the senses at all. The more you do, the more the senses want. It is like telling, standing in front of the ocean, let the waves subside, then I will take bath. Waves can never subside and you can never take bath. So the point is, it's very clear. If the mind is running after the pleasures of the world, how can God be realized? God can be seen or he can realize the truth only when the whole mind is given to him. Good, enjoy. God says that. Enjoy a little bit and then come. But everyone has to finally give up that kind of pleasure seeking. You must divert all the senses towards God. In other words, do everything for the sake of God. Nothing should come on your way in your spiritual practice. And by constantly engaging yourself in the disciplines, following the instructions of the Guru, then you will be able to strengthen your spirit of renunciation, and by constantly doing spiritual exercises, you will be able to increase your devotion, and then you will slowly understand the truth. But it's an important step, and it is not easy, that I know, because we are born in this world, we are exposed to this world. That means the mind and the senses are totally exposed to the external world, and we have not been able to enter into the inner world. All the energy, all the power, all the resources are being used in the external things. But one has to learn through experience. Experience will show that all these things what you are trying to feel pleasurable, in course of time you understand they're all trash. But that understanding has to come. Then only you can turn yourself to God. True.
So
What does it?
needs have to be
Huh?
the
True.
be a little bit full before they can
Undoubtedly, nobody says you don't attend to your basic duties, come to God. Nobody says that. And nobody will come also, even if you say. That is true. But it doesn't mean in the name of attending the needs of the things, whole life is gone that way. You have to do everything simultaneously. You try to attend to your needs, and at the same time try to practice spiritual discipline also. Why Swamiji has said, if a person is weak, his mind cannot think, he has no health, he cannot understand anything. With that weak mind, with that weak body, how can he understand the religion or spirituality? So first make him strong. That is true. But after making strong, then you have to sow the seed. Seed of spirituality must be sown. But are we doing that? Tell me. There is no starving in America. Why the people are not turning to spirituality? Why there is a lot of crime here? Brutal crimes are being observed, are being seen every day. Brutal. Why? Even though many countries are not starving, why they are not turning to God? So, it all depends upon how you direct your mind. Spirituality begins only when you have contentment, when you don't run after the desires. Then only spirituality begins. If you keep on running after the desires, there is no end. You must keep on coming life after life. Enjoy the life every time. That's how it goes. Anything else you want to ask? See, no, Hanuman was telling to Rama from different standpoint. As long as you are maintaining your identity individually, then you hold on, you are the servant, God is the master. So it depends upon your attitude. From what level you are talking about. That's the way. From the standpoint of dualism, all the individuals are distinct. So from that standpoint, Hanuman says, I am the servant. I remain to be servant always. Because remaining servant is always safe, because there is no danger of egoism coming up there. Because he is the always servant. Ramchandra is the master, and he is just following what the master says. That's all. But from another standpoint, and he says that if the whole and the part, if that is taken into consideration, then he prefers Sri Rama to be whole and himself to be a part of it. Then also he exhibits how he is totally humble and doesn't want to project egoism in any manner. But then from the highest absolute point of view, there is no difference at all. From the point of view of consciousness, it's a unified consciousness. The whole thing is pervaded by consciousness of God. From that point of view, there is no difference between me and you. And these are not mere words. Hanuman had realized this on account of his proficiency in his love, devotion and service to Rama. And by the grace of Rama, he got the realization of the truth. That's all. Any more question? We shall stop. Chant the name of the Lord and His glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quench that mighty forest fire worldly lust rages furiously within. O name, stream down in moonlight on the lotus heart, opening its curb to knowledge of thyself. O self, drowned deep in the waves of his bliss, tasting his nectar at every step, bathing in his name that bath for weary souls. Various are thy names, O Lord, in each and every name thy power resides. No times are set, no rites are needful for chanting of thy name. So vast is thy mercy, how huge then is my wretchedness, who find in this empty life and heart no devotion to thy name. O my mind, be humbler than a blade of grass. Be patient and forbearing like a tree. Take no honor to thyself, give honor to all. Chant unceasingly the name of the Lord. O Lord and soul of the universe, mine is no prayer for wealth or retinue, the playthings of lust or the toys of fame. As many times as I may be reborn, grant me, O Lord, a steadfast love for thee. A drowning man in this world's fearful ocean is thy servant, O sweet one. In thy mercy, consider him as dust beneath thy feet. Ah, how I long for the day when an instant's separation from thee, O Lord, will be as 1,000 years. When my heart burns away with its desire, and the world without thee is a heartless void. Prostrate at thy feet let me be in unwavering devotion, neither imploring the embrace of thine arms, nor bewailing the withdrawal of thy presence, though it tears my soul asunder. O thou who stillest the hearts of thy devotees, do with me what thou wilt, for thou art my heart's beloved, thou and thou alone. O Lord, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness to light, and lead us from death to immortality. May all be free from dangers, may all realize what is good, may all be actuated by noble thoughts, may all rejoice everywhere. May all be happy, may all be free from disease, may all realize what is good, may none be subject to misery. May the wicked become virtuous, may the virtuous attain tranquility, may the tranquil be free from bonds, may freed make others free. May good betide all people. May the sovereign righteously rule the earth. May all beings ever attain what is good. May the worlds be prosperous and happy. May the clouds pour rain in time. May the earth be blessed with crops. May all countries be freed from calamity. May holy men live without fear. May the Lord, the destroyer of sins, the presiding deity of all sacred works, be satisfied. For he being pleased, the whole universe becomes pleased. He being satisfied, the whole universe feels satisfied.